Good morning or good evening, and welcome everyone. We are here with one of our junior researchers webinars, and we have the pleasure today to have Professor Cornelius Herstatt with us, and he is going to illustrate his research on frugal innovation versus sustainable innovation, and he's going to share his insights on the conflicts and the potential synergies between these two kinds of innovation. And please, I would like to welcome Professor Herstatt, and the floor is yours, Professor. Thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you very much. Good morning or good evening. I'm in Italy, like Luisa, but not in Rome. I'm in the Tuscany. I'm in Siena currently. And since this is a junior researcher seminar, I guess, or I hope we have many juniors here. I hope that I can give some ideas for research here. So I'm talking about frugal versus sustainable innovation and these things and conflicts and synergies. And I guess there are so many research opportunities there that we can have a lot of discussions after my presentation later, and then eventually opening up here some avenues for research questions and interesting stuff here. Good. So how do I move now to the next slide? Well, Luisa, I have a problem here. I cannot move to the next slide. I don't know. Yes.
Okay, Professor. Yes, it takes a little bit of time because of connection.
Yeah, well, it's a new Zoom thing here, and I'm not so familiar with this new version. Anyhow, I'm a professor in Hamburg at the Technical University, and been doing a lot of work on user innovation a long time ago, and then we moved more into things like frugal and sustainable innovation, or even things like innovation for aging societies and these things. I've done most of my work, of course, in Germany, but I was also very active in Japan and Indonesia, Australia, and in the United States. So my research was and still is pretty international. We have also done a lot of work in India. Actually, we are on our way to go to India in October, again in combination with frugal innovation and these things. So the institute I'm running or I'm leading in Hamburg has different innovation foci. Today I will talk about this frugal and sustainable innovation, and mostly about the interface between these two research streams. But we have also done a lot of work on innovation processes, especially front end, as I said, user innovation, where I was, brought into research a long time ago. We have an industrial focus in healthcare and aging and these things. So we have done a lot of work with companies who are in the medical equipment field. And we have also done work on open innovation, what is very close again to user innovation. And so these things are kind of related. And we have currently 12 PhD students who are doing work in these different areas. And looking back over the last 25 years, we had more than 50 PhD students doing work in these fields, also a couple of habilitation students. And I think there are currently 12 professors in the world who have done work with me a long time ago and who have done their PhD with me. So we have a certain record here in innovation here. Well, you probably have seen these pictures here. These bizarre, estimations, how many worlds different countries would need if they would just go on with, exploiting resources and consuming as they have done. This is really kind of bizarre because very obviously we have only this one planet here and we have to take care of it. We have to do the best, to treat it well, so to say here. Yeah. So there's a lot of discussion about, how these problems can be fixed. Also a lot of discussions of green production, environmental friendly production, or green technologies, green energy, and all these things. But I think we have to realize that every form of production requires energy and produces CO2, whether it's oil-based or green technology or whatever. And that all will lead to further emissions here. And that's a big problem here, because emissions are piling up here, and because of the nature of CO2, this very specific nature, it's not something that can be just very easily removed, from the atmosphere. It will stay there, and there will be cumulative effects adding up more of this stuff here in the atmosphere. And that's a big challenge, of course. So obviously only a massive rethink in production and consumption can slow down the depletion of resources, and then hopefully also reduce CO2 in the long run here. Yeah? Then we have also today a lot of discussions about compensatory technologies like carbon capture and these things, also trading CO2 certificates and these things. That's useful, but very obviously it will also not solve the problem. And a trend reversal here is not really in sight. It's on the contrary, the global production of petroleum-based products and the use of petroleum-based energy remains at a high level. And there's even an upward trend when you look at the estimations of the production of plastic. Yeah, so it's very serious. Looking at sustainable development, how it is defined by the European Commission here, they say sustainable development must meet the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs, a life of dignity for all within the planet's limit, and reconciling economic efficiency, social inclusion, environmental responsibility is at the essence of sustainable development. This really sounds wonderful, but the reality is far away from that, unfortunately. Yeah? And why? One explanation for that is that sustainability, or trying to implement sustainability here as such, is a wicked problem, because there are these massive trade-offs between intra and intergenerational justice. Yeah, so the young generation today is, telling people at my age, that we and my generation have messed up everything. I guess my generation, when we were young, did the same thing with the old generation in those days. And it's very difficult, to kind of, cope with that. Human development in the past was and still is positively correlated with the consumption of natural resources, including oil-based products. Improvements in welfare lifestyle has therefore led to increased pressures on the Earth's regenerative capacity. Innovations in the past created wealth, but also the status quo of depletion of resources and negative ecological impact. Yeah. So in other words, we cannot have everything, and we cannot have it all. Yeah. So if we want to have welfare, as we did, and everybody still wants, then there's a price for it, so to say here. Yeah. Consumption patterns of low-income individuals have significantly smaller environmental impact than those of high-income individuals. And logically, these do not want to carry the obligations of rich countries' past current behavior, because they want to prosper and grow. So talking about India, Indonesia, these countries that I'm frequently visiting, talking to these people there and seeing, how they live, of course, they do not want to carry the burden, so to say, of the rich world's past behavior here, so to say. And they want to prosper and grow, of course. Yeah. So it's a big mess. And the question is, how can it be sold? And can it ever be sold? Yeah, that's a very difficult question here. And I, of course, I do not have an answer for that here at the moment. Only maybe fragments or facets of how it could work. So our world is not an accident. It's a reflection of humanity's level of maturity. Yeah? So we created it here. Yeah? So and the question is, can we create a better world in the future? There is also a lot of talk about eco-effectiveness, and you probably have heard the differences or these different definitions between eco-efficiency and eco-effectiveness and these things. So eco-effectiveness, instead of just using less or making things more efficient, aims at an absolute decoupling of economic development from environmental impacts. Yeah. So organizing economic processes entirely without negative environmental impacts. And that's a qualitative goal, changing in material flows through a fundamental structural change towards closed cycles. Yeah? So imitate, for example, natural ecosystems in creating these closed loops or cycles. And the most prominent example is cradle-to-cradle innovation. So I'm a member of the board of the cradle-to-cradle NGO and society. And I've been doing a lot of work with Michael Braungart and these people who kind of, created the concept long time ago. And these people talk about these two loops, and many of you probably know them. We have a biological loop, and this is about biological materials, which will, after, the end of their life cycle, will, brought back into these biological, cycles. And we have a technological loop. So, for example, washing machines, products made out of steel or whatever, plastics, whatever, that are, after end of use, then properly, dismantled and brought back into these technical loops, and when we and the idea or the hope would be if this would be completely installed, across all kinds, of industries and product types and all kinds, of things, then we would minimize the need for fresh resources or new resources, because we can endlessly use, the materials that are already in the loops here. Yeah? And with regard to the fresh materials or the other materials, we would have to naturally add here for new products. We would, draw back on things that can be easily replaced. So how could that work? Obviously, only if companies work collaboratively together and create, these kind of, closed chains of value generation here. This is this butterfly model here promoted by the L. MacArthur Foundation. And when you then look down here to the left side, you also see something about cradle to cradle. And it's this is the major source here. The L. MacArthur Foundation kind of used in order to create the model here. Yeah? So on the left side, the biological cycles, on the right side, the technical cycles, and then it explains a little bit how this could work. Does it work? Yes. In Germany, for example, currently, I think something like 3,000 products of different, companies are certified by the EPEA organization. That's the certification organization that, gives these different labels and standards from bronze to platinum for companies or for products that comply with the cradle-to-cradle, standards. 3,000 products is very, very little. Other countries like Holland, the Netherlands, especially the Netherlands and other European countries are, investing into this thing here. We have just finished a project here for 2 regions in Germany that want to become, cradle-to-cradle regions here. You also have activities in the United States. You even have some activities in China where, companies for different reasons, get involved in these things and try to implement it here. But as I said, so far it's a drop in the ocean. Yeah. So we are still far away, from broadly implementing this thinking and this concept into practice. So first interim conclusion here, eco-effectiveness seems to be the right approach, but the diffusion process across industries, markets, and countries is currently by far too slow. So we don't have the time actually here. Yeah. there's probably never just only one solution to a complex, wicked problem as I've described it here. So it's an important facet, but it will not alone solve these challenges here. Therefore, I think eco-effectiveness and other concepts like eco-efficiency, sufficiency, regenerative agriculture, and others can make an important contribution, but these need to be implemented in a concerted, curated way here. And then the question is, who will take over the leadership here for that here? Yeah? Central element of success, creating a global concern about the state of the world and mobilizing the global collective, the will to change, yeah? Save, use quality, repair. And this seems to be the greatest challenge here, at least for me, especially at a time when vested interests are reemerging in the world, capital and power are becoming more and more concentrated, and global conflicts like the current terrible wars we have hinder the needed collaboration be beyond national interests here. Yeah, so there is not so much talking about these things anymore. The times when Greta Thunberg, was visible in the news every day and everybody was talking about that seem to be over, at least since, since Corona. Yeah. So this movement has massively slowed down here. Yeah? What is frugal? What is frugal innovation? Yeah, you are probably also at least partly familiar with this thing. The idea of frugal is to create cost-effective, functional solutions here. For example, resource-constrained markets, but also other markets that have a need for that, simplified designs, using local materials, high performance quality, focused on specific functions that matter from the perspective of the users here. So this little thing here is a portable electrocardiogram that has been developed a couple of years ago by General Electric, first for the Indian market, and that created a huge business opportunity for this company, because before this thing they only had a large stationary product in the market that was around $10,000 price. And beside the fact that a typical doctor in the rural India couldn't afford a machine for 10,000, it would not have even made sense for him, because these doctors are traveling around, they are mobile, they are visiting places, where there is not even, energy available, to run the machine. Then these big immobile machines cannot be, properly, transported and all these things. So so there was a high need for something smaller, cheaper, more focused here, and GE was so smart to finally pick up this thing here and create this machine that complemented, so to say, their large machines here. Yeah? So that's a typical setting how these machines are being worked, and this thing is being sold for $500. So substantially, less costly than the large ones. Yeah? And it was not, then GE at the beginning had this fear that it might, cannibalize their profits or their revenues from the big machines. But this was not the case, because it's basically a completely different machine. It's a different audience of users. It's a nice complementary thing. Yeah? Okay. So frugal innovation. Can that be a contribution to improving the situation I've been described? Well, we have to see. How does it relate to sustainable innovation here? So sustainable innovations as being defined, as innovations in which the renewal or improvement of products, services, technological and organization process not only delivers an improved economical performance, but also an enhanced environmental and social performance, both in the short and long term. So when it comes to this social performance, when we just look back to this little machine here, we probably see it here. Yeah. So this allows doctors here in remote places of the world to use these machines in combination with their patients. That wasn't existing before. It's also probably contributing to the economical performance, at least for companies who create these things, but also for these doctors who might even offer better jobs here. But what is about the enhanced environmental thing here, or enhancing the environmental thing? Question. Yeah? When we look at the differences here between frugal and sustainable, we see, that there are some overlaps, but there are also differences here. So the big difference here is cost versus sustainability. Yeah? So, for example, if a frugal solution would lead to use cheaper and then less eco-friendly materials, then it would obviously be not a contribution to sustainability. Yeah. So, but the high quality materials for upcycling are probably more expensive. Not only probably, they are more expensive. Yeah. So there's an inherent conflict here a little bit. The overlap here is that in the case of frugal innovation, we try to design products that use less materials and less components, are less complex. And by that, we kind of save at least some materials, components and things here. And that probably has a positive contribution to the ecology. But still, if these, materials we use are not, meant to be used for upcycling, or at least for proper recycling, then it would not be really a good thing. So resource efficiency is a common goal between both. Yeah. But the directions are a little bit different here. Yeah. So one solution could be use of reclaimed, recycled materials that are both cost-effective and sustainable. And then looking at these trade-offs, for example, at the cost level here. Yeah? So again, what are these potential conflicts and how could they be overcome? Frugal innovation, focus saving cost, focus functionality, optimized performance level, adequate quality from the perspective of the users, sustainable innovation, saving and or reclaiming used materials, that are, from their properties recyclable, better materials, eco-friendly materials for upcycling, easy to repair, rebuild, reclaim, and recycle and reuse, So, and this is a little bit, this thing we have to balance here, So less cheaper materials, components, parts that can often not be probably collected and upcycled on the side of frugal innovation versus, less but better, mostly more costly materials, components that are higher in cost. So, and this is this trade-off here we have to look at. And I'm trying to go a little bit deeper into this thing, and I'm trying to explain how this could be eventually overcome. An example from some current work we do. I don't know if Timo, my PhD student, is today here with us. Timo is working for Volkswagen, and he has been doing for the last 3 years a lot of work, in looking at this, at this exactly what I was talking about. So Volkswagen, for example, when we look at the interior of Volkswagen, these panels or these dashboards or all these things that are mostly made out of plastics here, are trying to figure out how they can become more frugal, and at the same time, not at the cost of perceived quality here. So, and using, for example, materials, virgin materials, and then recycling them in very often leads to lower quality here, and will not, then allow companies like Volkswagen to use basically the same material that has been used for a dashboard after recycling it again for a dashboard. So it's only available for downcycling, because the material properties or the materials they are using is not, when it's being, recycled, good enough to be reused again for the same purpose here. And that's an inherent problem, and that has to do with the qualities here of the materials. Yeah? There are materials that could deliver, so to say, that value, but they are much more costly. I'm talking about a factor of 100. Huh? So that's why they don't do it. So, and that's why they always go back then to the virgin material. Yeah? And that's why, you know, this other stuff then is not available, so to say, here for a closed loop recycling thing here. Huh? So, and then the question here was, how can that be overcome? What Volkswagen hasn't done for a number of reasons was to, you know, to look at the market and to figure out what kind of, you know, quality and what kind of, you know, of goodness, so to say, here is the market expecting here. What are, you know, users or customers really looking for when we talk about, you know, materials being used for a dashboard. Of course, everybody wants to have a quality product that looks good, that feels good, that eventually even smells good or smells not at all, whatever here. But things like, you know, for example, the melting point of the materials, you know, that are being used for the internal design is probably not something that a customer takes so much, cares so much about. So the melting point of these plastics are by 120 degrees Celsius. This is, you know, an internal standard by Volkswagen. And probably the market wouldn't be so much interested in that because it's never getting that hot inside a car. So people wouldn't mind probably if the melting point would be at 80 or 90 degree. But this makes already a big difference here. Yeah? So more flexibility with regards to, you know, choosing materials, yeah, and then also looking at materials or combinations of materials that would allow a recycling without a downcycling here, yeah. Or, for example, creating solutions where different layers of material are being used, a top layer and then something more below, and more variety. All that is not being done today here, yeah. So but that's from the perspective of a car manufacturer, a big discussion here, yeah. And we have tried to bring some ideas and some light into these you know into these discussions here with Volkswagen. Good. Can this conflict be solved? At the level of design, it's about creating products based on frugal and sustainable principles. That would be the idea here. So what are characteristics of such products? They are easy to understand, easy to use, easy to dismantle. They have an optimized performance level from the perspective of the users and customers here. Adequate qualities, easy to repair, rebuild, reclaim, and recycle. All that would have to be, you know, kind of fulfilled here. Yeah? And as we have seen, there are probably compromises that have to be done here. Yeah, very often these things turn out to be more costly. So, and then the big question is here, if we come to the conclusion that the materials we would have to use are more expensive, are more costly, how could a company be incentivized to invest and to do exactly that, to use the best materials, best for upcycling? And could that be solved, that problem? And by today's logic here, companies, when they sell products, like in the case of Volkswagen, when the car, so to say, is leaving the factory, it's gone. And with the car, the materials are also gone. Yes? So, and in this regard, the materials that walked into the products represent only cost, you know, for producing this thing. But what would happen if companies would not give up ownership? Yeah, but instead would make cars or products available, not necessarily selling them. And then the focus would be more on how can we return later these products or the materials after the end of the life and regain these valuable materials. And the interesting thing here is when you look at the cost of raw materials like steel or like copper or like whatever, the prices have been going up, I mean, steadily over the last years. So when we look at it from that perspective, not selling the products, but, you know, leaning them out or giving them, you know, customers for some time and then making sure that the stuff will come back to the factory, I would invest in these materials. They would become assets in my balance sheet. And in this regard, it would be investment in good quality materials, knowing that the stuff will come back and that I or whoever can use the materials again properly. Yeah. So and then there's the question, how can we incentivize these markets to return the stuff, and how can we manage the logistics needed here? Yeah. So, and I give you an example how that can work. This is on the left side, a company from the Netherlands, Desso, that are producing carpets. And I'm talking about these huge carpets that you find, in office buildings, in hospitals, wherever. I mean, in huge buildings. So I'm talking here about really masses of carpets. A traditional carpet, is created in such a way that it cannot be recycled after the end of life. In Germany, we label it as Sondermüll. Yeah, and Sondermüll in English would be hazardous waste. So it can only be, teared off the floor, and then it will end in an incinerator. So all the resources and the material that walked in the first place into these carpets are gone. We burn them. We create CO2. Yeah. And the Desso, for a couple of years, decided that this is probably not the best thing to be done. And they created a carpet that can be, dismantled and put back into into these different components, that can component by component be recycled or regained in a technical cycle. So the materials they use are of high quality, and this the Airmaster, for example, has additional properties. For example, it can bind fine dust in the air. It makes the air even better here. So, and the business model is, if you want to have a Desso carpet, you order it, they bring it, then you make a contract for maybe 3, 5, 6, 7, whatever years. And after that, they will pick it up again and eventually bring you the new floor. And the material will end up in a factory that is capable, to properly dismantle the product and regain all these materials. So, and that's a wonderful thing for Desso, because they know when they, for example, sell a contract today for such a product here, they know exactly when the materials will come back in the future. So it's a wonderful planning for planning, resource planning or production input planning. It's a wonderful thing. Same happens here on the product on the right side. It's a Henry Miller office chair. And the thing here is, the idea is to have, these different components that are of a single material. Yeah. It's easy to dismantle this thing with a screwdriver. It doesn't take long to do that, a couple of minutes here. And then these different components can be separately, brought back into these technical cycles. Henry Miller also doesn't sell the chairs. You will make a contract with the company and they will deliver it and pick it up. So we have more and more examples of that type. Bosch in Germany, for example, now moved over to leasing out washing machines, dryers, refrigerators, large whiteware products here. Same model. And for users or customers, it has a lot of advantages, And nobody really needs to be the legal owner of a washing machine or of a refrigerator. I mean, I wouldn't care. Huh? Of course, there are limitations. It will probably not work with all kinds of products, but very likely with many more products, than today, and many of the products that are still traditionally just sold. Yeah? So that could be a thing. To sum up here, can we save the world? I have no idea. So, and there is probably no single solution to this complex, wicked problem. Sustainable and frugal element innovation are facets here, but certainly not the answer. but a reduction in global production is a necessary element. We just have to produce in the first place much less. Yeah. And many of the things we produce are not even needed. I think 1/3 of the textiles produced in the world every year are not even sold. They are waste. They are dumped, then in landfills because nobody needs that stuff. We have an overproduction with regard to many of these products. Yeah. So reduction seems to be needed here. Yeah. And in combination with other measures to safeguard the earth, sufficiency, frugal lifestyles, yeah, concentrating on quality products again, yeah, using good things for longer, yeah, making them, repair things, all these things that are being discussed. High quality, durable products based on ecological materials are significantly more expensive. So consumers would eventually buy less. This is why we need other business models, yeah, and making things available instead of selling high value products and then miserably downcycling these after the end of life. Selling less but better products could also be another opportunity. We can generate others or more revenues generated by secondary market businesses like service, repair, upgrading of products in the loop. Yeah, and these changes will only be possible if manufacturers, suppliers, consumers massively adapt their expectations and their production and consumption behaviors here. Yeah. And I have the hope that this would be possible if we would, move more towards that direction. We need political will and frameworks. We need these economic incentives, we need education and awareness, and we need international cooperation here across, national borders here in order to create these solutions here. But as I said, it will probably take a very long time, but there is at least this hope. Okay, so that's the end of my presentation here. And we have now another, I think, 20 minutes time to discuss and also to answer your questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Cornelius. It's really interesting, this discussion. I think you have so many open issues that we can discuss today. So if there are some questions from the audience, I will ask you to unmute yourself and okay, Andre, please unmute yourself and ask your question.
Yes, my name is Andrzej Yashin, professor in the similar field like our today's speaker. I work in Faculty of Management, University, and I would like to congratulate your excellent lecture. But in two aspects. Firstly, that the contents were very, very interesting and updated. And the second aspect that, Cornelius, I understood every single word said by you. So you assumed, perhaps I exaggerate, you assumed that among your listeners, maybe people from each country in the world. One of them speak excellent English, other speak a little bit less, and you as an excellent lecturer did it in an excellent word. And I would be happy if we could get slides, if we could get your slides after this webinar, so I could share it with my students. And my thing, I would add, not ask, I would add something, one more thing. When we, say 20 or 30 years ago, we teach our students how to lengthen a product life cycle in the market. I think about 10, 15 years ago, companies started to do something different, in different ways, contrary. They try to produce products like, say, to be used shorter and shorter and shorter. And we are witness within last 10 years, a movement in the world that so stop. We must stop doing like this. And your lecture showed that we must do it. We must come back to the idea of how to lengthen product life cycles and how to give them new life. I mean, products based on used materials of infrastructure, etc., can be used in a circular way, in a circular economy. So I mean that the idea of frugal and sustainable innovations are very updated. Thank you,
Yeah,
thank
thank you very much for your comment. I guess the slides can be distributed by ISPIM later.
For sure. Sure. Cornelius, thank you for your willingness to share the slides. We used to do this as ISPIM Innovation Community has a website. And our website, we used to share all the materials during the lectures and the webinars that we are having. So we have here another question, actually two questions that I'm going to read from the chat. This is Didier Van Kali, who says, one of the key challenges is for sure how to change the best class mindset dominating the culture in place amongst engineers all over the world. Mm-hmm. Do you have already investigated this question? And how to identify the trade-off between best quality and sufficient quality, notably by incorporating the perception of the level of risk you accept when diminish your technical requirements. So please, this is the two questions for you, Cornelius. So if you want to answer.
When I was talking about this Volkswagen example, I tried to explain it a little bit, you know. So when we look at a car, you know, like a Golf or so, by the way, the Golf of the latest generation today has the same consumption of gasoline like the first version of a Golf that was introduced back in the 1970s. And the simple explanation for that is that the modern or the current version of a Golf is so much heavier than the original one that to move this car, the same amount of gasoline is basically needed than, you know, it was the case back in the 1970s. That itself says something about, you know, what has happened, you know, over the last 30, 40 years here in car design, So there were so many things, you know, added to these cars, and I would question that ordinary people, ordinary users who buy a car, really need and use all these things here. So I think, and so there is probably plenty of opportunities, you know, to question what is really, you know, making sense in combination, you know, with a car, and what kind of, you know, entertainment, what kind of, you know, additional functions are really needed here. So this in itself would give room, you know, for getting rid, you know, of unneeded stuff, and by that also of costs here. But when it comes, you know, to key components, you know, and things like safety relevant stuff here, so then there is, of course, there can no compromises be done here, but still there is room. And when I was talking about, you know, this thing here, what kind of materials are being used, you know, to create you know, a nice interior design for a car, then it's about the optics and the feeling and the haptics and how, you know, this thing, you know, looks, but it's also about the safety here, So in the case of a crash, or in case this car, you know, starts to, you know, to be in flames, but and there are no compromises. But for the other things here, there's so much room, you know, to save, you know, components and parts and things, that it would be, even in Germany, I think, possible, you know, to create a car that is significantly, cheaper. Yeah. And Dacia, is an example for that. So Dacia is this branch of the Renault group that have very successfully start to sell cars, even in Germany, in a country that is perceived as, when it comes to cars, really picky and very, quality aware. And Dacia is selling a lot of cars in Germany, and Volkswagen is currently going through a very difficult time in Germany, in other parts of the world here. And a part of this explanation is that these cars have just become too expensive and too complex. Yeah? So it's time to look at it from another perspective. But from an engineering perspective, I can fully understand that. But and I repeat myself, when it comes to safety, no compromises, not at all. Yeah. But when it comes to other things, I would think there is still a lot of room, to frugalize solutions that have been over-engineered, traditionally over-engineered year by year by year in this and also in other industries. I hope this gives an idea of how I see these things.
Thank you, Cornelius.
Maybe we also have questions from young researchers who are starting their research and who want to do some work in the field and who want to, pick up eventually one of these things that I've been talking about for their own research. I don't know, but this would be...
That would be amazing. Actually, I'm inviting right now all the audience that we have, all the junior researchers, to speak up and unmute their microphones and ask their own questions. So please, Saberi, the floor is yours.
Hi, good morning from a very sunny, beautiful Cape Town. So I'm a young researcher and I work in technology innovation management as well at the University of Cape Town. And
That's a beautiful place. I've been a visiting scholar there many years ago.
Oh, brilliant.
Good.
So we do have a research unit focused on using frugal innovation for healthcare technology. And one of the things that I'm really interested in is the development of diagnostics for diseases that can effectively diagnose or screen for diseases at point of care. And the issue that we run into is the reliance on high-tech components like antibodies or biological products or whatever, and the problems within the supply chain of these and the cost of acquiring them as well, from suppliers internationally. So I was wondering with regard to the impact on the supply chain issues with regard to frugal and sustainable innovation, and what is the current thinking around that? Because of the COVID pandemic, we know that localized manufacturing is very important, but sometimes we just don't have the infrastructure available to do this. And my comment in the chat was about, us being able to collaborate better from south to north, so that we can focus on the speed of development and the cost of development as well, to bring solutions to where they are needed in the global south. So this is very important for us, and I'd like to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, when I got it right, you said that for the diagnostics, you very often use, you have to import stuff and materials and components, costly materials and components that are being produced by, I don't know, companies like Johnson & Johnson or whoever, and then that has a massive impact on your overall costs of your services here. Yeah? So, and I think the only way to circumvent that would be to find alternatives here and to look for alternative materials or procedures, that will deliver the same, diagnostical results. And this is important, and it's obviously not a trivial thing to do here. But I know that, for example, the spouse of one of our people who is listening here today, Professor Tiwari from India, She has been doing work on this topic. I mean, how to come up with cheaper, frugal, procedures, in diagnostics here that would lead, to same quality of results, diagnostical results here, but are much cheaper than the standard materials or the standard procedures that are being used here. So, and if Rajneesh is still here, then you will see him in the audience here. Then you might want to connect with him, and then you both can discuss what his subject or the research of his wife was here. That's the only thing I can say at the moment here.
Thank you, Cornelius. We have so many questions in chat, so I'm going to read one more, and of course, I invite again all the audience to ask questions, unmuting their mics if they feel so. So we have this question saying that you mentioned in your last slide that high quality, durable products based on ecological materials are significantly more expensive, leading consumers to eventually buy less. What alternative business models can be developed to encourage sustainable production and consumption, given the high quality ecological products are often more expensive? This is a question from Ida.
Yeah, okay. When we, for example, look at how products have been created or designed maybe 30, 40 years back, then one of the underlying or basic idea was to create, long-lasting, high-quality products that could be used for endless. So I tell you, I still have, I'm still wearing shoes that are 45 years old, handmade, British high-quality shoes, and that were very costly in those days when I bought them, but I still have them and I still like them. So there's a little bit this kind of thinking. So what kind of products do we want to have around us? So the logic of the last maybe 10, 20, 30 years, the industry logic was, let's move people to buy, more stuff, So when you buy, I don't know, a car today, then it might be nice for maybe 5, 6 years, and then you want to get rid of it. If you buy a washing machine or a refrigerator, it will work fine, in case of a washing machine, maybe 10,000 washing cycles, and then it will be gone. Yeah. So it's the idea of this fast moving, consumer markets, and in extreme cases, fashion. Yeah. People sometimes might wear it just 1, 2, 3 times and then just get rid of it here. Huh? So, and this is this kind of, of modern logic, and it's massively, pushed by social media, by advertisement, commercials, whatever. Yeah. So the other logic would be when we come back to the idea of a washing machine, for example. If we would create a washing machine that will not break or collapse after 10,000 washing cycles because somebody will build in a component that will, create this crash here. So I'm talking about, anyhow. So let's, and why would I be motivated as a manufacturer of a washing machine to create really a fantastic product that will have an endless life? Why would I have the incentive to do so? 2 perspectives. One is, I'm not selling it, I'm leaning it out, or I'm leasing it out, and I will, gain, on a monthly basis, payments. And the other logic is, this thing will come back and I can reuse most of these components and the materials after the presumed end of life. For the consumer, the advantage, it would be, he would not have to invest a lot of money at the beginning when he buys this thing here. Yeah. So instead of maybe 1,000, maybe 3,000 euros for a thing like that, but he would pay by use. He would pay by use. Yeah. So, and he is capable, or he's entitled to finish or to end the contract whenever he likes to. Yeah? So, and this is this idea of also heavily discussed in share economy business models here. So we do not necessarily need to be the legal owner of all the products that we have around us. Yeah. When it comes to things like, I don't know, watches or jewelry or clothes, we might have a different perspective. We like the idea that we are the legal owners of these things. But when it comes to cars, houses, other things, maybe, you know, these other business models will also work for us if we can afford, you know, and if what we pay at the end of the month corresponds to, you know, what we are prepared to invest, you know, for running these products or for owning these products, not in a legal term, but, you know, in a practical term here. So, and in this regard, I think both worlds can come together. As I said, Bosch is right now exactly doing that. They had a test market in the Netherlands, and they have now expanded the business model to Germany. So people, instead of, you know, buying washing machines, can get these washing machines. For the people, the nice thing is they don't have to pay attention to, you know, how this thing gets into their apartment. What happens with the machine if it collapses? The service, you know, what happens with the machine if they move, and who will, you know, then transport this heavy thing? All these things are not, you know, relevant for them. They are using the thing here, you know, and pay for the use. So, and the logic here, and this logic leads further back in the design department of Bosch to a completely different thinking. We are now, or they are now, creating machines of materials that have the best properties to be recycled or to reused again. Yeah, so they create the machines in such a way that they are super easy to dismantle and to make best use of certain key components who do not collapse at all, even if you have used the machine 10,000 times or whatever. Yeah? So, and that's a completely different logic. So both sides kind of, you know, come together here. Yeah, it's a different machine, it's different materials, and from the perspective of the user, is he knows he gets the best product, and then and he pays for how he is using this thing here. And this idea can be expanded to many other product categories here. Yeah? Key question is, how does the stuff come back to the factory? And how is it being organized if these things, for example, are being sold outside of the home country or the production-based country company of this firm. But that is a question of logistics and a question of collaboration partners, and who likes to, you know, to jump on this thing here, and who wants to become part of the value chain, of this different value chain.
Thank you so much, Cornelius. We have another question here. Chris, if you want to ask your question, please go ahead.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Cornelius. Excellent lecture. I work for a wastewater treatment company in the UK. One of our challenges we're putting some innovation effort to is removing products in the waste stream and recovering and recycling them. I'm interested in your views on how accountable you think manufacturers of products, particularly consumable products like personal care products or single-use products like diagnostic tests that you talked about previously, or pharmaceuticals, how accountable should those manufacturers be for the recoverability of their products from a municipal waste stream, an aqueous waste stream, or a dry waste stream?
Well, if we talk about, you know, products like this here, I mean, blisters and tablets and these things, then obviously we are reaching the limits of, you know, of these business models that I've just described. So it would not be feasible, you know, obviously, to bring that stuff back here. Yeah. But when it comes to responsibility of companies who create these things in the first place, I think they are responsible for the stuff here. So they, even if they are not collecting these things by themselves or through a business partner or so, somebody will have to do it here, and somebody will have to take care here of, obviously, also of these things here. So when I'm just looking a second again at this blister here for the tablets here, what we see here is on the back side there is an aluminium layer, and in the front there is some kind of plastic. I have no idea what that plastic is here. And it's probably super difficult, you know, to tear off here, so to say, this aluminum here from the plastic. And even if we would do so, you know, and if we could do it, you know, then there's still the question, can these leftovers be properly recycled? And so, and that's a question I think that would have to be, you know, to be taken care of the manufacturers in the first place here. So I'm not, and maybe there are other designs, different designs, you know, for these products here, yeah, that are easy, you know, easy to dismantle here. So maybe the aluminium on the backside wouldn't even be needed, and the whole thing could be made out of PET, and PET as such can be relatively easily be recycled here, yeah. And that's I think something that the manufacturers would have to be forced to think about here, and not only one, but in the case of the pharmaceutical industry, the whole industry as such. So alternative, you know, packaging forms for tablets and these things, and this is enormous amounts of stuff that is being produced and being used and disposed every day on the world here. So even this little thing here, if this would be changed, you know, it could also already be a kind of, you know, a solution, yeah. Also for a company like yours, because I think you have to be, you know, you have to take care of these things here when they are showing up here, when I got it right.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you.
I think the responsibility remains with the manufacturer. Yeah? It cannot be, you know, just leave. It's not gone when the product leaves the company.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Cornelius. I think Leonardo has a question. Please unmute yourself.
Hi, Luisa. Thank you so much. Hi, Professor Cornelius. Thank you for the presentation. Amazing. I'm a PhD student in Unicinos University here in Brazil. And I saw you commenting about your experience with working about frugal innovation and sustainable innovation in different parts of the world. And I want to know if you see any different or particularities in the consumer's interest in these innovations, considering the differences between global North and global South. Thank you.
Well, obviously, or very likely, people who are living in countries like Switzerland or Germany or Austria are much more aware of these things and are much more trained. So I don't know if you have visited Switzerland, but this is a country also like Singapore that is super clean, and companies who are producing there are even, you know, without being, you know, forced by the law, are trying to at least fulfill or overfulfill, you know, the legal requirements here when it comes to CO2 production and waste and all these things here. So when I mean, this is obviously very different, you know, in other parts of the world. I mean, I've been a lot traveling in Indonesia and also in India, and I mean, we know how it looks there, yeah, but it's very difficult, you know, to blame the people here, and I wouldn't do it, you know, because there are just not solutions installed, you know. There is no proper waste management, and there's a lot of, you know, practical issues that even if people would, you know, like to have, you know, the surroundings tidy and cleaned up, I mean, it wouldn't work, yeah. So there are more and more new initiatives here. So when you nowadays visit India or the shores, you know, of Indian coast, it looks much cleaner, you know, because there are so many, you know, local initiatives that have been started to clean up the places and to, you know, to collect the plastics. And there are even more and more machinery installed that allow people, you know, to dissect or to separate, you know, different types of plastics and then to reuse it. Yeah, there is a super interesting NGO that has been started in Indonesia, where I think it's now a couple of hundred young people collect, you know, plastics at the ocean, bring it back to a local factory, and then create furniture out of these regained plastics, you know, all these things. So there's a lot of things, you know, happening, but obviously not enough. But what I see here is that the affection, you know, or the interest, even in these countries, you know, when we look at the younger generation of people here, is emerging. Yeah, so I'm hopeful in this regard. But still, there's too much plastic being produced, and the production estimations for plastic production worldwide is even going up, as I said, you know, at the beginning of my talk, and this is a big problem here. So we have to kind of stop that. Yeah, and that's difficult because there are too many people still making a good life in this world of, you know, selling the stuff and also burning stuff. Yeah. So producing plastics and burning the leftovers of products is still by far a too good business here for many people in the world, and that hinders massively, you know, the replacement of these terrible products. And that's this is a thing that should be on the political agenda of all countries. Yeah, but let's be realistic. It's not the case. Yeah, it's not the case.
Okay, thank you so much, Cornelius. And we have time just for one more question, and then we have to close this session. So please, if there's somebody else, I think John wanted to ask another question, and then please, we have to close the session because time is running very fast. And thank you, Cornelius, for your patience and your availabiliability. Thank you so much for this. John, if you want to unmute yourself. Okay, let me see if I can reach him.
Hi, hello.
Hello.
Hi, I have a question. It's related to the high quality, the high cost of these materials, of these sustainable materials. And I wonder if it is a problem of economy of scale, right? Is it realistic to expect that the cost of these sustainable reusable materials will lower as more and more manufacturers adopt their use? Or is the sourcing of these materials so complex that we wouldn't see much difference?
Well, if we believe in the laws of economics, yeah, then they should become much cheaper, assuming that more and more, you know, industries, you know, would be willing, you know, to jump on these alternative materials. So economies of cost here would probably also work in combination with these other materials that are better. Yeah. And when we look at I'm just thinking of an example from Hamburg. There's Beiersdorf, the largest, one of the largest producer of cosmetics and healthcare related products here in Germany. Important brand is Nivea. Yeah. So Nivea is currently going through a process of, you know, changing the compositions for, you know, for their cosmetic products here, making them more complying with the EU regulations. So, for example, getting all the microplastics on all these oil-based, you know, paraffins out of the recipes for these products. What is a very important thing. Yeah, and one learning here was by changing the recipes for these products. Yeah. They have found ways to leave many things out of the recipes that have been, you know, over the years, you know, added to the recipes. So by making the recipes simpler, yeah, and by, you know, picking out, so to say, components out of the recipes of the cosmetics that are no longer or not really needed, makes the product itself cheaper. So the logic is here to use better but less materials, yeah, and then through that to kind of compensate here, and to end up with a price tag that is, in an ideal case, you know, the same like before or even a little bit cheaper. And the same works with the packaging materials here. Yeah. So, and this is another strategy, you know, companies can follow to really question, you know, the recipes or the architecture of the products that has been, traditionally be created, and we know that over the years products are getting more complex, and companies like to add, things, functions, or even, materials and stuff to these products, and then by massively reducing them to what is really needed, to have, in the case of a cosmetic product, a good quality, stable product here, by using less but better materials, and then hoping that to end up with a price, that is not at least too far away from what companies are asking for their products today. And the surprising thing here with BioStuff was that sometimes these products are even getting cheaper, because we are leaving out unneeded things, unneeded chemicals, so to say, from the original products here. But coming back to the original question, when we believe in economics of the economics of scale and scope and these things, so the traditional economical, laws, if we like to label them, then the answer would be yes. Yeah, but so far too few companies are using these materials. So from a capacity perspective, so to say, the potential to lower costs have not been, reached. So I'm positive here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Cornelius. Thank you, everyone, for your presence here. And please remember that the deadline for submitting your abstracts for the Osaka Connect conference is going to be on the 4th of October. And please follow us on our website and social media channels for more activities of the junior researchers community. And thank you so much, Cornelius. Again, you've been very generous with your time. So we hope to have you in the future with us. So thank you so much.
Good. Okay. Bye. Have a nice day.
Bye, everyone.